Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathan Vasquez. I'm the District Attorney for Multnomah County, and thank you for being here this afternoon. We're here today to announce that from the District Attorney's Office perspective, we have filed charges in the case involving the fire that occurred at the Mill Park neighborhood. This is, of course, the fire that damaged Councilor Avalos' home. And after a thorough review of the evidence, the District Attorney's Office has determined that the appropriate charges for this case will be reckless burning, and then 3 counts of criminal mischief in the 2nd degree. A probable cause affidavit is in the process of, it's been filed, and it will outline kind of the basis for these criminal charges. Throughout this process, the District Attorney's Office, and particularly my Deputy DA, Mackenzie Ludwig, has worked very closely with the Portland Fire Bureau and the Portland Police Bureau in what has been a very careful and thorough investigation. And as a result of that, as I think has been reported, an individual has been arrested, and we are proceeding forward. I want to take a moment and just say that I particularly appreciate the work that Portland Police put into this, as well as the Portland Fire Bureau. Certainly this is an incident that got a lot of attention from our community, as it should, and I know that it had deep effects on Councilor Avalos. She and I had an opportunity to speak today, and we've spoken a few times here in the past few weeks. And certainly from my perspective, I'll tell you that I have a great deal of empathy and understanding. And if something, I can't even imagine if something happened like this to me and my family. And so I'm so happy that she's safe, and that police have done a very thorough job in bringing this to at least this point of conclusion. And from there, this office will be working through the process to, yes, speak with the victims in the case, and then work this through the criminal process to really seek to hold this individual accountable, and then also look at how do we help this individual through the system to get to a place where hopefully we don't find ourselves in this situation with this individual again. We have today here, we're very fortunate to have Chief Day and our fire chief here. We'll have them speak here in just a moment.
Thanks.
Chief?
Thank you, Nathan. Bob Day, Chief of Police. I want to start by once again expressing our empathy and recognition of the trauma for Councilor Avalos in particular, and also other neighbors that were certainly impacted by this. Also want to thank the patience of all those involved, including our Mill Park community in the greater Portland area, as we have diligently worked through this investigation over the last week and a half. Also want to just really thank the Portland Fire Bureau for their partnership, and in this particular area of expertise, it really is a partnership. They can speak more clearly to the role of their fire investigators, but this was a really hand-in-glove, methodical investigation that was done. The investigators for the Portland Police Bureau that I can speak to put in numerous hours, sacrificed a lot of personal time, canceled vacation to be able to be available for this, to work this diligently through. We were in regular communication last week a couple different times with the counselor's office. Fire chief and I met with her one day last week, and I also know she was briefed along the way by the Public Safety Service area. We take any act of violence very seriously, and certainly the belief or maybe some early on indications of this potentially being political violence was definitely top of mind for us. We recognize the visibility and the role of the counselor in the city of Portland, and certainly consider that along with all the other possibilities that we may be faced when we conduct an investigation. We followed the facts of the case, identified the individual. East Precinct officers were able to take him into custody today, and then Detective Hopper and Fire Investigator Anderson, I believe, were able to gain more information through their interview with him today. So really good work. Once again, thank everybody for their patience and their confidence in us as we move through this investigation, and pleased that we can bring it to a conclusion at this point, as the DA mentioned. And I'll turn it over to Fire Chief Johnson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lauren Johnson, the fire chief, and at the risk of repeating what the DA and the police chief have said, we are thankful that we've come to a conclusion for this case. And I want to thank both the partners that we've got in the Police Bureau and the partners at our county and throughout the city who have kept information flowing in all directions, really, to provide as much information about this case as we could as that time went on and eventually led us up to here today. As Chief Day mentioned, we do have a great partnership with our fire investigators who are working hand in hand with the Police Bureau, and I'd like to just echo the sentiments that they worked around the clock to provide a resolution to this case, and we're thankful for all those that work behind the scenes. And again, just really express our condolences to those who were affected by this incident and want them to know how important it is to us to continue to work to keep their community and all of Portland safe. Thank you.
As I had stated earlier, I had an opportunity to speak with Councilor Avalos, and she asked that my office read a statement that she prepared. She was certainly invited to be here today as well. And the last thing I'll do is just echo the sentiments of the working relationship, as I've personally worked with these particular investigators, and they do excellent work for our community.
If it's okay, can we send the statement, or do you want me to read it?
I'll read it just because she asked that it be read. So if you'd like, I'm happy to read it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't bring my glasses.
All right, can I have it back from you then?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
And I believe that Councilor Avalos will send it out as well. This is the statement that was sent to me today from Councilor Avalos. After speaking with District Attorney Vasquez this afternoon and learning more about the arrest of Vashawn Locust, I have a clearer understanding of what happened and the conditions that led to the fire at my home. I'm still learning about Mr. Locust and don't want to speak about him as an individual yet, but I do hope to connect with him when the time is right. I want to thank the investigators for their careful work, and especially DA Vasquez for taking the time to outline what options exist to ensure Mr. Locust receives the help he needs. When I asked for patience and cautioned against speculation last week, it was because we are living in a moment where deeply rooted, preconceived ideas about homelessness are being reinforced and weaponized against our most vulnerable neighbors. Across the country, we're seeing the dehumanization of people experiencing homelessness pushed at the highest levels of power used to justify cruelty instead of care, and that national climate inevitably shapes how we see and treat one another here at home. This was an act that caused real harm and disruption to my life and others, and it's important that we find a path forward that centers both healing and responsibility, but it's also a reminder that far too many of our neighbors are living in crisis, people navigating untreated mental illness, addiction, and poverty in a system that failed to catch them before they fall. My hope is that we can hold space for both compassion and accountability and recommit to addressing the conditions that make tragedies like this possible in the first place. It's a statement of Councilor Avalos. At this time, if it's okay, we'll make some time for questions. Go ahead.
Ariel Yakabazi with Point 6 News. Happy to see you all here, and thank you for sharing all of the information. I know that this was a pretty high-profile case. It made a lot of headlines of a potential arson at first, and I just want to make sure that we're clear. This is not being investigated as an arson anymore? And then also, the second part to that question, because a city councilor's property was damaged, did this ramp up the timeline for an arrest, investigating, that sort of thing?
I'm happy to answer that if you'd like, Chief Day. I'll say that this didn't change the timeline. Having worked with these particular investigators before, they are very diligent, and what they have always exhibited is an interest in that when a fire happens, they quickly try to get right to not just the cause of the fire, but what led up to it and all those things. So I've seen that done countless times before. And then the first part of your question was kind of the arson component. Certainly this was investigated as an arson. As is with all criminal investigations, they are looking to follow the evidence, and through the course of this investigation, it was determined that a reckless burning was the appropriate charge, and kind of how this played out in this particular scenario.
Mr. Vasquez, Chief Day, we've been scouring the court record, and it's clear that there was many interactions between law enforcement and the suspect in this case prior to today. Is this a revolving door of justice? I mean, we're seeing clearly many of prior contacts, treatment plans, mental health treatment, and yet here we are today.
So this isn't a revolving door. This is one where we've spent a lot of time really trying to address the mental health issues. And I think this case is, I don't want to overstep on this particular individual, but there is a greater issue within our community, and that's mental health and the complexity that goes into that. We have, I think the court record will show that we have made multiple attempts through our mental health court system to address this. It's something that we're talking about in the state legislature, certainly something that we're talking about here locally, looking for different avenues. I can tell you right now, one of my senior deputies went down to Nevada to look at some of their facilities with the sheriff of Clackamas County and Multnomah County to find better options to help those struggling with mental health. And so it's an issue that we are intensely working on, and I think this case highlights some of those challenges. But this isn't a situation of a revolving door of justice. I think it's the complexity of mental health.
Chief, anything to add?
No, I think he covered it. I think that's fine.
Well, if I could ask you a follow-up, sir. My understanding is an arson investigator, perhaps this is a better question for the fire bureau, did speak with the suspect in this case, and he cooperated and offered a statement. Can you just one of you can relay a little bit more about what he said? I mean, it sounded like he was trying to stay warm or something like that?
I'm not gonna comment on the details of the investigation at this point. I don't wanna speculate. I haven't, been in those investigative rooms. I just have been briefed on the fact that we have an arrest and we've developed probable cause and submitted that to the DA's office, but I don't wanna speculate right now on what he said. We'll be sharing that more as we go forward through the court process.
Totally understand that, Chief, but of course, motive is such a huge community concern with this case, so is there anything you can add on that?
Yeah, we're comfortable, based upon the information we received, that as outlined in the charges, and I'd certainly defer to the DA for that explanation, but reckless burning is not arson, and so we're definitely comfortable in those charges based upon all the information, including the interview that was done earlier today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you just, so that there's no spoilers here, well, I guess this is a spoiler, is that the probable cause affidavit will address that directly. It will tell you exactly kind of the discussion that those investigators had with him. This is a court document, obviously, that we're filing for the probable cause, so it'll be a matter of public record. But in there, this individual talks about the need for a warming fire on a cold night. There was a fire that got out of control. It wasn't, there was no political motivation. There was nothing that indicates he had any knowledge of who lived in the area even.
Thank you.
I have a question kind of bouncing off of that. This might be a question for you guys as well. High homeless population here in Multnomah County. You can't ignore that. And we're entering the colder winter months and people are using fires to keep warm and maybe space heaters. And how often do you see maybe incidents like this, maybe not to this extent because this was a pretty big deal, but how many incidents do you see around this time of year similar to this?
Sure. I'm happy to defer to the fire chief. I've looked into this myself, but however you'd like.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer that just because
Chief,
preparing.
could you come to the microphone,
Yes.
please?
Thank you.
Sure. So we look back at last year's fiscal year and almost 3,000 reports, so 2,969 fire reports that we looked at. Roughly half of those were associated with maybe a houseless population starting a fire or using a fire in one way or another. So that's almost half of those. And of those, we sustained 10 civilian injuries and 1 death, and about $3.12 million in damages were associated with these events. Most of those things are fires that are started in rubbish, trash, or some kind of waste fire. Okay. Thank you.
If you want to bounce off of that, whatever you want to say to that.
I mean, I think that really speaks for itself in the sense that we have been talking about immensely within the city what to do in this situation, and I know that the mayor is obviously very concerned, and this office has expressed its support with the idea of we want to get people off the streets, into shelters, into a safe living environment where we don't have these situations with these fires. I would say that when I hear those numbers of well over 1,000, it's shocking, and I think for this community, no one wants to see people that are living in a condition where it's so dangerous, particularly when we're talking about tents, cold, severe weather. We want to see people get into a healthy and safe condition.
When it comes to a situation where someone maybe is witnessing somebody burning something or recklessly burning, how should that person approach it? Should they contact police or should they contact fire department? How's that?
Yeah, I mean,
since we're going into this cold season?
I'll grab this one. It's just, it's a 911 call, and they should request, you know, a fire response. I know the 911 operators do a great job of kind of filtering through and making that determination, but when we're seeing fires out there, and I get emails, contact about it, and we direct people to have a response, because we want to make sure that that doesn't get out of control and get to a situation just like this, where, you know, people's lives are greatly harmed.
Anybody else? Going, gone.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.